Hey guys, just want to talk about the November 14th, 2010 WebBot Tipping Point event that appeared to be some kind of dud. And the dates given, I think, were like from the 5th or 6th of November through, I think, the 14th. And with an exclamation point on the 14th being, hey, plus or minus a day or two or three, something or some things should be taking place that are significant. And they basically said the event, or the after effect, if you will, of the event would be greater than that of 9/11 as far as the, I guess, emotional whatever feeling after 9/11, people talking about it, whatever. That whole thing lasted about 2 weeks, according to their data, or in their model space of their data, was shown to last about 2 weeks. This thing was going to last 63 days. So it would be greater than 9/11, of course, in that respect. And nothing really happened. I was taking notes on important things that I thought was above and beyond normal news of that time, and I did some videos on it. And I just want to quickly, in one of my videos, or maybe more than one, I had mentioned at that time, and even, a matter of fact, mostly probably people commenting to me, saying, oh, well, it looks like nothing happened, blah, 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 whatever. And I said, well, listen, let's just say this date comes and goes, and the little 63 days of WebBot, whatever area, goes away, and then a month later, something big happens. Are you really going to write off the WebBot because it's behind a month or two? When they gave this date, nothing really happened. We were expecting something bigger than, or affecting the world greater than 9/11. That kind of release, emotional release afterwards, whatever, would be greater than that of 9/11. So I thought to myself, yeah, November 14th is gone. The 63-day period would have lasted through kind of late, whatever, January, and then that 63 days period is gone. And if you look at the time wave zero charts, which kind of correlate to the same time period as the WebBot was talking about, that 63-day period or whatever also ended, I want to say, in February sometime. So it was close. Trying to think if it was March or February. I think it was February, going off of memory here, as far as the time wave zero chart. So I've been thinking lately, the Middle East is on fire, practically. Crap over there is spreading like wildfire. And I thought to myself, well, it started in February. Egypt started there, spread. You heard about Tunisia, Yemen, it quickly went around, and it's not done by any means. It's, the party is just getting started, basically. And according to Lindsey Williams, it's going to end in Saudi Arabia. And I think, personally, I think a lot of you would agree, it's not just going to end in Saudi Arabia. Iran is still over there, and there's going to be a problem with Iran to these, as far as these globalists are concerned. And they're going to have to deal with that. And the reason I say that is because on Alex Jones' show, the fairly recent one with Lindsey Williams, which actually would have been around, I don't know if it was the show, because he came back on like 2 times after the first date, the 22nd of February, he came back on the 23rd, came back on another day, and then last Monday he was back on. And I don't know if it was last Monday or the one before that, which would have been, I think, the 23rd of February. He had said something, and I think it was in that interview anyways, or phone call, whatever, where he says, oh, Israel and Iran. Lindsey Williams says that, and he's like terrified as he says it. Israel and Iran, and then he like skips on, like doesn't ever go back to the Israel anything. And I have an idea, or a thought, that he said that as maybe a little hint. I told you 2+ years ago they were getting ready to gear up for the war with Iran, and I asked my guy then, is it fixing to happen? And he said, no, not yet. It will happen, and it'll be about 2 years. He said it. So we are at, by the way, that 2-year period, like right now, middle of 2011 is going to be roughly the 2-year period he spoke about. Now, in the latest well, not the latest, but the one interview he did in October of 2010, he said, Alex said to him, so he said, well, first Lindsay comes on and says, Alex, I talked to him again. I told you 2 years ago they wanted war with Iran. And they wanted it, but everyone said we're going now. And I said, no, we're not. I talked to my guy, the oil executive. We're not going. We won't be there for 2 more years. Well, Alex, I'm changing my tune altogether right now. So Alex, based off that statement, says, oh, we're going to war with Iran. Okay, this is it, Lindsay. And, if we go with war with Iran, blah, blah, blah. Lindsay says, well, Alex, he's told me recently they want a conflict in the Middle East. And it's my opinion, by the way, that this guy, which at that point would have been Ken Fromm, his guy that died in December of 2010, and now he's got the second guy apparently that he's been speaking with. And he's always said there's been 2 guys he's had conversations with, but it is my opinion that one of the things that they told him, because they tell him you can talk about this, and this, but you can't go there. You can't go there. You got to stop selling that book. Blah blah blah. And now he kind of gets anything regarding the word Iran. He may use the word once and then won't talk about it. So my opinion is that I think the war with Iran is absolutely going to happen. Again, this is one of the big things that's been in the WebBot report for years. And they thought themselves, Cliff High, the oil thing in the Gulf of Mexico, that was the ill winds thing that we were picking up. Oh, okay, because that was spreading and people were getting sick. And it kind of fit the data, but no. They've had the data in the damn reports for years. And every time it keeps coming up in every single report run, nothing about the Gulf of Mexico and oil and I think we got that wrong. It was clear as day. War with Iran, Israel strikes one of their facilities, somehow causes radioactive waste to get into the air, causing massive deaths in that area, I guess, and it ends up going around the globe. I think they said 9 times before it finally peters out and somewhat safe, or whatever you want to call it, levels. But the world, Russia, China, other people in that area, seeing what Israel has done, which basically just hurt their populations, of course, because they're right there, decides to wipe Israel off the face of the earth. And of course that's our ally, that's our boys, and we're over there helping or whatever. Maybe our guys get killed too, I think, because there was another thing coming up in the data saying that half of the attacking force that would attack Iran, which probably would include U.S. troops in some fashion, but it appeared to be mostly a airstrike, half of the attacking force would be wiped out by Iran's impressive defensive capabilities, apparently. And then there would be a draft in the United States. Hey, we got to go help our guys over there, blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't quite go so well for our congressmen and whatnot, but that was kind of an older WebBot report, but it had been in the data many times. So I'm kind of getting off track here of why I'm making the video, but I'm thinking of all these different little things that I need to mention, and it's my opinion, based, like Lindsay said in the very recent interview, Alex, Iran and Israel and Iran, and then he stops, that's all he says, and then goes on to tell the rest of the story about the conflict in the Middle East, never mentioning Israel and Iran about any kind of possibility of an attack there whatsoever. I think that's one of the things they told him to stop talking about. I'm pretty sure. But it's my opinion, I have to say that. So, anyways, back to the November 14th hot date that kind of fizzled. Didn't seem like anything greater than, at least impacting greater than 9/11 had on the world. And that's kind of how they worded it a couple times, literally, that at least the impact or the after effect of whatever would happen on or about the 14th of November would be greater than the after effect or the effect of 9/11 had on the world. So the odd thing was that this thing wasn't just like an event and that's it. It lasted 63 days of, I guess, release tension or whatever is release language, and that was it. So that was the end of January. Whatever, the time wave 0 chart shows that it was sometime in February that massive downward spike hits the bottom and then starts to climb. Now the interesting thing is, maybe not on the exact date, but for God's sakes, very, very, very close to the dates, including the WebBot time frame, the span that they had, 63 days included, and the time wave 0 chart going down very, very low and then peaking back up a little bit and then going back down again, which we're not quite there yet. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the time wave chart while I'm doing this video. So I want to read a couple of things that were kind of headline news on or about the 14th of November. Now, remember, the dates they gave was around the 5th or 6th of November to the 14th for some kind of stuff to take place, and then the after effect should last 63 days and that kind of thing. November 6th, Obama heads to India with a fleet of 34 warships costing taxpayers $200 million per day. Now, I had someone email me or message me through Yahoo or YouTube when I made this video also talking about this. It says not anywhere near 200 million. It's just some figures they threw out there. But the one fact did remain, and it was the most expensive taxpayer cost of any kind of presidential visit anywhere during the entire history of the United States of America. That's a fact. So, pretty big, thing there. November 8th, ICBM missile launched off the coast of California, most likely from China. And I wrote my own little note here, what if the USA was about to attack Iran or some other war, and China said, I don't think so. You guys are over here. Well, guess what? We're in your back door. It was that large. They had experts on TV talking about it, retired people, what you name it, saying that trail and whatnot, and the little pictures they saw, that it had to be a large missile, probably an ICBM. That's what we kept hearing. That's a significant event. And the after effect of that event, if that's what it was, may have to do with what we're experiencing right now. We don't know because we're not there. We're not behind closed doors. And maybe things that, like this, that are really become a conspiracy theory because we don't have the answers, could be far more significant to what's happening right now than we could ever imagine. I mean, I just don't know. But that was significant. G20 meeting was on the 11th of November. Results: China will not revalue its currency and is upset with the USA for devaluing our currency. And the rest of G20 is actually on China's side and agrees. That's the first time ever. Thailand's prime minister proposed using the Chinese yuan or their dollar as a major regional trading currency instead of the US dollar. The Mexican government on the 13th of November passed a law restricting how many US dollars Americans can exchange south of the border. The new magic number is $1,500 per month. Are you telling me Mexico just passed a law saying we don't want those turds, those dollars, we're limiting them? Well, they're catching on. So anyway, that's just I have a few more things, but those were, I mean, the ICBM missile launch was the big one. And that's interesting because the WebBot clip, George Ure, a week before, on his website was saying, oh yeah, by the way, next week sometime, we should get some kind of news event that breaks out, big news, goes away, fizzles, never heard of again. And then the ICBM missile launch happens next week, as he said, due to the WebBot data, that they're expecting something. They weren't sure what it would be, some kind of big news item. And it would just be a few days, 2, 3, 4 days, big time, and then, nothing, bye-bye, go away. That's exactly what happened. So, that came from the WebBot report too. So that was spot on. But it looks like the 14th kind of fizzled. So, anyways, here we are, very beginning of March. And technically, mid to, I'm not sure the exact date, middle of February, slightly past mid, 20th, 21st, 22nd, whatever, somewhere in that time frame, we had the problem with Egypt, rioting, revolts, you name it. That's now spread all over the freaking place, you name it. I mean, every Middle Eastern country is now on the news for revolting and violence and killing and you name it. Libya now, of course, the big one, at least until we get to Saudi Arabia. But, man, let's just go back a little bit and let's just say the event that happened in Egypt, the day we heard about that as breaking news and there were people in Egypt that have had enough, if that was November 14th, which was just 3 months earlier, whatever, November, December, January, February, we'll call it exactly 3 months. 3 months earlier, we have a huge WebBot date. Now, if that what took place then, everyone would be like, wow, that WebBot, man, ooh, nailed that thing right on the money on the 14th. And sure enough, 63 days later, we've got other countries now rioting, setting stuff on fire, fighting the military. Holy cow, that WebBot is significant because that event is actually greater than 9/11 because we only had a little, United States focused thing. Our country, Twin Towers mainly, Pentagon, whatever, end of story. Over there, you've got multiple countries rising up, fights, literally like a civil war breaking out in multiple countries. And notice the key words that they said when they described it. It would be the after effect or whatever would be greater than that of 9/11. How it would affect the world after would be greater than how 9/11 affected the world after 9/11 happened. What's happening to the price of oil because of this? We've got $5 a gallon gas in multiple places right now, by the way, in the United States. And I don't even know if we're over $110 per barrel or $115 per barrel, somewhere around that or less. I haven't looked in today. But let's say it's 115. Why is gas in the United States over $5 a gallon when in 2008, as Lindsey Williams correctly predicted, of course, it would go from 70 or 60 something dollars to 150? And when it did hit $147, by the way, all-time high, gas was hitting $5 here and there in the United States like it is right now, but it was $147 a barrel. We're at 110 or 115 right now. Why are we paying those same prices now than when we did in 2008 when it was 150 a barrel? Doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to make sense because, again, the IMF and the World Bank set the price of oil. World events have nothing to do with the price of oil. That's a shocker. I know it's hard to believe for a lot of people, but it is what it is, and here's the proof. And furthermore, Libya, when this recent thing in Libya happened, said we're cutting down all our oil production. We normally put out 1.6 million barrels a day. It's now going down to a trickle. All of a sudden, gas prices up 30 cents, 20 cents, whatever it is. And that's interesting because, again, in 2008, when prices were skyrocketing, and then Lindsey Williams, the prices are going down to $50 a barrel, and they will hover there till approximately the first half of 2009. That's the latest information I have. People thought he was crazy. It rapidly, from July and August, hitting the all-time highs, it rapidly went back down to 50. It was 147, 120, 100, 70, 50 within like 3-4 months. You can go look it up. Look up the price of oil. You'll see it. And I seen an article that says, oh, Saudi Arabia, when it hit 60 or 50, Saudi Arabia, we're cutting 2.2 million barrels of oil per day production because the price is so low. We're cutting it to make this little demand, supply and demand issue take place. And a strange thing happened the very next day. Or, excuse me, I think it was 3 days later. Next headline. Gas prices tumble to $40 per barrel. So Saudi Arabia cut production 2.2 million barrels, and the price went down from where it was at down to 40. That can't happen. But it did. So now we're hearing, compared to 2.2 million, Libya says 1.6 million is being cut, and the price goes way up all of a sudden. 20 cents, 15 cents, 6 cents a day, just crazy. But the average person is not paying attention, doesn't know that, didn't know. No one still has a clear answer as to why the prices rise in 2008. It rapidly fell so quickly, everyone just forgot. Oh, forget it, great. Gas prices back in business again. Good days, here we come. And that's it. Live for today, forget about anything else. Even if you've been screwed over, don't investigate it. It's back to normal. It's okay. It'll never happen again. Only to find out, here it is happening again, and it'll be worse. So what I'm saying is, this WebBot, biggest WebBot hit ever known to mankind since the WebBot's been in existence since 1997. This big event seemed to be a fizzle. And I said, don't hold on to the dates perfectly. Sometimes it's dead on. It's unbelievable. It'll blow your mind how they could get something perfectly down to the day. Other times, the date, just look at the event and start looking around you to figure out, well, I think it's happening now. May not. Here we are 3 months later. This is the big event. I mean, would you not agree? This is not the big event that WebBot probably had seen. That's gonna last a little while, anyways, and is definitely far more significant than 9/11 as far as the world's concerned, because the entire world uses oil and is now about to get raped by the oil prices, like we all are, and that's going to affect everything else in turn, such as food, water, you name it. Electricity, everything, because everything has to do with oil, and oil has to do with everything in our modern life. So that's definitely could have fit November 14th, but unfortunately it didn't happen November 14th. It happened in February. So we're 3 months later. And again, I said, don't hold on to the dates, and this is why. So it is my opinion that this is the event that WebBot was talking about. And to further on the story, this is basically the turning point beyond no return of all kinds of things, including the dollar collapse. And a lot of the news, even including some of the stuff I didn't read you from back in November that I stopped on my message about the ICBM missile launch and stuff. There's a lot of news in there. Canning the dollar. There's a bond crisis coming, says Federal Reserve Chairman, ex-Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan. The deficits are, this and that, all kinds of stuff. What's happening now? Same thing. Dollar starting to collapse again. It has actually hit new recent lows and has actually hovered around those lows, which is not a good sign for the dollar. It's not looking like it's going to bounce up. It's looking like it's going to bounce down further. So we probably are going to go below the 72 all-time low that happened not too long ago, year or two ago, whatever it was. And, who knows, but gold and silver, I mean, I looked today, silver's at $36 plus. I was actually 36 something, 36 and quite a bit into 36 anyways. So I just wanted to make this video for people who think or thought that it was just a miserable failure, the WebBot, don't pay attention to that turd, it's useless. Man, no, it's not. And if you look at the timeline rather than the specific dates, even if they nail a date, you still can look at the timeline and figure out, okay, well, that's happened, so we're on track for X, Y, Z, and the rest of this to take place. Maybe not when you or I think it's going to happen, or even when the WebBot says, oh, it should happen this summer. May not happen. Maybe next summer. The beautiful thing is you at least know what it is going to be pretty much, for the most part. At least to some decent degree. You're not going to be blindsided and say, well, this big event happened. I had no idea what it was going to be. I had no idea Israel was going to attack Iran. And at least you know, and you realize, well, if that happens, then A, B, and C are going to happen. If A, B, and C happens, then D, E, F, and G are probably going to happen too, because that's also in the timeline of the WebBot report. So, it's my opinion that the big WebBot event, actually, which was not on time, clearly, is the stuff in the Middle East. Because as I just explained, it's going to spread. It's already spreading. We've already seen that. Price of oil is going to affect everything. So, we are hitting the point of no return. Now we're going to invade Libya. Of course, they got the massive, biggest, largest oil reserve or tapping oil reserve, whatever, on the entire continent of Africa. That's the one country we're going to go liberate, by the way. Out of all the other ones. I forget those guys. They don't have enough oil. So, anyways, I just wanted to share that with you. You got to love the WebBot, one way or the other. You could get pissed off and say, oh, it's 3 months late. I'm tired of waiting for something to happen, and it doesn't happen. Man, this is still priceless information for me, even if it's not on time. I can see the rest of the story unfolding right before my eyes, and it's interesting to, after it happens, to then go back and reread stuff, and it's like, oh, wow, pretty damn accurate description of stuff, but timing was off, that kind of thing. And the interesting thing was that they didn't really know what it would be about, other than we see a lot of dollar problems, economic problems. We do see things of war and, revolution. There's so much stuff. It couldn't say, well, on the November 14th date, we're expecting economic collapse or a war to break out, specifically. There's a lot of things they were grasping at, like it could be all of these things. For the first time, we actually don't know for sure. So we're just leaving it at that. It should be a big event that's bigger impacting than 9/11 was to the world. That's all we got. And again, it fizzled, but whatever. It's here now. I can assure you that much. And gold and silver is doing very, very well. And I'm telling you right now, if you think, oh, I can't get in right now, it's too high, you're playing with fire if you don't have any. You need to get some. And if it's $40 and you buy some and then it crashes down to 32 or 30 and you're like sick, oh my God, it's down $10 an ounce. Holy crap, I just spent, $2,000 or whatever. Damn, don't even sweat it. It's just one of the little dips, like everything that goes up and down. If something's crashing, there's still a little up and then crash more. And if something's skyrocketing, it will shoot straight up and then up, down a little bit, shoot straight up even higher, down a little bit, shoot straight up even higher. Don't be worried if it's $40 when you buy it, which, by the way, you're going to spend $40 right now to buy some Silver Eagles, because they're not given to you for $2 over spot or something. They're going to make you pay $3 or $4 over spot. So $40 now. If it crashes down to 30 by chance, which I don't know why that would happen, but if it did, and it could be possible, they can try to clean people out one final time before the whole thing implodes with silver, shortages and whatnot, just to scare everyone out of it and say, see, we told you shouldn't have bought that stuff. Now you lost a bunch of money. Don't listen to that nonsense. You got physical silver in your possession, you hold on to it. Don't even bother. Don't even sweat it. Don't even stare at the computer like, oh my God, I hope it goes back up today. By the end of the day, I'm going to be sick. Tomorrow, oh my God, it's still not up. Oh my God, I'm feeling sick. No. If you're going to do that, don't even waste your time with silver. Just, screw it. You're going to be in trouble with the rest of the stuff if you can't handle that. So, hang on to it, and if you can get more money, if it was to crash down, then buy some more when it's $30. And then, when it goes back up to 40, 45, 50, you'll be like, wow, I bought some at 40, it's up $10, it's $50, I'm happy. And I bought some more actually when it was down to 30, that little downward spike for a second. All right, I'm happy. But when it was 30, you weren't very happy because you paid 40 for it. Don't worry, don't sweat it. This isn't something that's going to change rapidly overnight. It's going to be something that if it hits $32, it may last a week or 2 or 3 or 4 and then go back up. And as we get closer to, my opinion, end of 2012, Mayan calendar stuff, you're going to see these things happening much, much faster. So you may see a dip down to, if it's 50 or 40, dip down to 30, next day back to 40. And you're like, holy crap, I've never seen a move like that in my life. That's in the WebBot reports, by the way. When you see $5 a day moves, in one day it's $40, and then sometime through that day it went down $3, and then it went back up past 40 to 42. That's that'd be a $5 move, or $40 back down to 35, or $40 to 45. Either or, just simply $5 per day moves. That type of movement in silver. You're going to see people get cleaned out in the paper markets when they start doing that. Not necessarily that they're doing it, just the market's doing it. And also people can make a lot of money going up. I wouldn't dare chance it in paper. But when you see $5 a day moves, it's really the nail in the coffin of pretty much a lot of stuff where we've been waiting a long time for. And I'll tell you, which I've told you before, I expect things to happen a lot sooner than they happen. I'm always preparing for them as if they're going to happen sooner because I really think they are, and they don't. So that's a good thing because I'm able to prepare, and then when the time comes and I don't see it, I'm actually able to prepare for other things that may have arose that I've realized, I think I want to get that. Kind of like a wood-burning stove, which is on my to-do list. Definitely, as a matter of fact. And another thing that I would highly advise, and you can go online and look how to make these things, they're very easy. A distiller. Water distiller. Same thing actually as an alcohol distiller, but you just do it for water. In the simple process of distillation is basically boiling water, making it steam, and then catching the steam as it comes out. So you need kind of an enclosed thing, even an old teapot or kettle would do, potentially. And you catch the steam, and it goes through like these little coil windings, which you can get copper pipe, that's flexible copper pipe actually, and you can actually bend it yourself. And these little coils, and then you can catch it down here with a cup or whatever, gallon jug, and the steam comes back into water, of course, by condensing in that coil, it goes back out water. That is the finest, purest water you can ever create. If you had radioactive water, or particles, of course, which would be in the water, you could do that, and only the radioactive particles would be left behind in your little pan or pot or whatever, and the pure water, drinking water, could come out the other end. What you do with the particles or how radioactive they are, I wouldn't want to be near them anyways, but I'm just saying, worst case scenario, it's that powerful. Any kind of filtration can't touch distillation because you're steaming it and then it turns it back into water. So that's another thing on my to-do list. To what I plan on doing is probably finding like a cheap kettle or whatever online and finding one to where I can hook like a hose or something to it to get the copper pipe on there, or I'll just make something. I mean, I don't know. I've seen stuff online that are really cheap, and it'll work. Just something to have. One more thing I want to mention. Just really recently, I've been noticing a lot of, not mainstream at all, but mad cow problem coming up big time, and even more big time than that. is this bird flu and whatever, pig flu, swine flu, all this crap coming out. Again, not a lot going on in the mainstream media, but there's a lot of stuff going on in other countries right now where I'm hearing of thousands and thousands of like birds, which, you know, chickens as well, getting slaughtered because a few of them had some kind of swine flu, and it, you know, it spread so quickly they just slaughtered the whole lot of animals, cows, pigs, you name it. It's happening all over the world, by the way. But you're not hearing anything really much in the United States, anyways. Whether it's happening here, I'm sure it's happening a little bit everywhere. But I'm hearing stuff from, you know, other websites, other countries, basically, and that's going to be a cause for concern. And I remember reading something, and this is one of those things that you just can't believe. But when you start to listen to his whole story, the whole story, you kind of have to sit back and scratch your head and just at least think about it. And that's the old John Titor story, Titor, which I didn't come across until I started researching stuff. It was one of the things that fell on my lap, basically, like in 2007 maybe. And he goes on to a website, message board, anomalies.net, I think was the original website, back in the year 2000, and says basically, you know, this is my nickname, whatever, but I'm John Titor, I'm from 2036, and I'm going to be here for several months, and, you know, feel free to ask me any questions, something like that. So that's how it started off. I wasn't around this stuff then, so I didn't know about that it even took place. And people say, oh, I'll play devil's advocate, you know, and they're screwing with them, and he's giving them answers and talking about how the world's going to change, the United States is going to change, you know, war's coming, financial collapse. I mean, everything, basically. Everything that's happening now, he kind of hinted to then. But he gave dates. 2004, this is going to happen. 2008, there won't be an Olympics anymore. It's going to get cut off. And someone asked him, well, why does the war in America start, the Civil War or whatever, the revolution? And he says it stems from a problem with the elections. But that was supposed to have been the last elections, I believe, that had already taken place. So I started thinking to myself, man, Obama, the birther issue, if that made it, and he was ousted, or maybe he was assassinated, or it was found that he was not a natural-born citizen, man, that could fit, you know. but it hasn't happened. And again, I'm just thinking of this. This is funny because here I go again. Of don't pay attention to the dates, just listen to the timeline. And if you do that, it's kind of scary when you look at what happens. And one of the interesting things he said is mad cow disease has yet to begin here, but when it does, it'll be years after it already takes effect that people realize it's the problem, that are having massive health issues and people are dying from it. And he says, as far as offering you a piece of advice when that comes to pass, don't eat any animal, so meat, chicken, whatever. Don't eat any animal that is fed part of its feed, or any of its feed, containing parts of its own dead. So in other words, when I'm thinking this here, I might be able to foresee something going on here just by listening to that story. Again, I don't know if, I mean, I can't sit here and say I believe this thing, but when I'm hearing this giant timeline and seeing things unfolding, some things he got, like someone asked him about China. Does China ever send a man to the moon? He said, yeah, in a few years they'll actually do that. In 2003 they did. Foresaw that, you know, that's pretty interesting. But the important stuff that you know, Civil War, Revolution, this and that, dates are way off. Maybe he did, maybe put the dates out on purpose. You know, if this guy is real or had the information somehow, maybe he's not from the future. Whatever it is, you got to listen to the entire story if you can find it online, which you can. John Titor, Titor. And anyways, he says, don't ever eat any animal that is fed parts of its own dead. So I thought to myself, why would, if there's cows, and mad cow disease is specifically what he's talking about, why would cows be eating feed, and then part of the feed having some of their own dead in there? Now, if that's the only part of the story you got, you'd have to make a conclusion, logical anyways, and say, why would they have to do that? Why would they not just feed it regular feed? You know, regular animal feed, cow feed, whatever. And you'd have to come to the conclusion, well, maybe there's a shortage in corn and wheat and grains, which is what they feed those things, those cows. And humans need it more so than we feel the cows need it, of course. And since cows are having some kind of sickness or something's going on, which is what I'm telling you is happening right now with the swine flu and this flu and that flu and all this crap going on, maybe the cows get sick or they've got to be slaughtered. But man, that's a lot of beef, meat, etc. going to waste. Thousands of tons potentially. Man, we got to do something with that. Okay, let's remix it back in with cow feed and let them eat their own crap. Sounds like a brilliant idea. Great, go for it. And what I'm telling you is, if you see that taking effect, like there's some food shortages that hit, and then all of a sudden you hear about, which I don't know if you would even hear about it. I mean, this is something you'd have to ask maybe a farmer or some kind of big meat company. I don't know. Even if they would tell you, I mean, they might not even tell you the truth. Who's going to tell you that their animals are being fed dead parts of other animals? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But if I see that starting to take place, and I'm seeing, headline, world grows concerns about not being able to feed farm animals due to, massive human hunger right now. If I start seeing crap like that on the news, I'm going to have to think the animals are going to get the shit end of the stick. And we're going to feed them crap, basically, just to keep them alive, to keep us alive. Not knowing that mad cow disease could potentially, according to him, be started when a animal eats its part of its own dead in its food. According to John Teeter. Whether this guy's real or not, I can't say it. I'm not going to say that I believe in this story yet, but it's always in the back of my mind. I remember the thing very clearly, disturbingly clear of all these things he's talked about. And he talks about the West, the United States, the West becoming very unstable. And before what he called N Day, which I think stands for Nuclear Day, China forcefully annexes the Koreas, and, it's basically all out, but quick, fast, over very quickly. World War III, nukes, name, boom, 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 done. China, Russia, USA, some other countries, real quick, done. And then those of us remaining are like, okay, we're tired. We're really tired of war. I mean, we're really tired of war. And he goes on to talk about how water gets radioactive waste in it somehow. And he mentioned that you won't be getting water without seeing somebody somewhere with a gun at that watering hole. And I'm assuming he means that that's someone protecting the water, the clean water hole, from just anyone coming up to it and getting water. I assume. He didn't say. But he did make it clear. He said, by the way, when this happens, there's only one way to survive off of water if it's got radioactive waste in there, which it's going to. And your area might be affected by it because there's very little places that are not affected by it. And you have to distill the water. And he says, please, I want to make this clear. When I say distill water, that doesn't mean filter it. I'm not talking about a water filter. Water distillation is not filtering it. And that set in with me like, yeah, oh yeah, that's right. I thought about too. I'm going to get a big Berkey water filter, and what's that going to do? Ain't going to do crap on nuclear waste, radioactive waste. Neither is a filter. Neither is a reverse osmosis powerful filter. It won't. But distillation, I'm assuming, due to what he said, and simply thinking about steam leaving particles behind, that's what happens. Well, yeah, very plausible. So anyways, I just want to share that with you. If you get time, check out the John Teeter story online. You'll find it. I pasted it in my own emails, the original story, just to have. You never know if something's going to change behind, but people actually went out and copyrighted it in 2003. Maybe it may have been his family's lawyer, actually, what he called his now family's lawyer. His family that's on this timeline, or world line as he called it. And, another thing he mentioned long ago, CERN, CERN, with the big giant particle collider. He talked about that back in 2000. He says, oh yeah, they're gonna smash particles together, and they're going to find some interesting things when they do that about some particles, or I'm going off memory here, by the way, so don't quote me, but he says something like they're gonna find some interesting things they didn't know when they collide these particles together, and those interesting things that we didn't know about that we find doing the particle collisions in the CERN machine or whatever, particle collider, will lead to the time travel machine or equipment, whatever he is using in the future. So I don't know. It's interesting because now that was 11 years ago that he said that. It's written down on the internet. It's been copyrighted. No one even denies that it wasn't said then. And here we are in recent times hearing about CERN doing just that, trying to find these particles. And there's been articles even, is this going to lead to time travel? And man, that's interesting. That's all I got to say. It's interesting. Don't count on it being real, but go read the story, because there's some interesting things he has to say and tips and advice that are actually pretty interesting too. One of the ones I'm waiting to see is, if this is true anyways, he says, oh, before the really crap hits the fan in America, I would describe the times of what's going on as a Waco type event that maybe happens every few months, and then it happens every month, and then it happens every few weeks, and then every week. And he just kind of, basically he said a Waco event that you keep hearing about those types of events more and more and more frequently, like scary frequently. So that doesn't mean religious centers are going to get attacked and wacko, no. What it means is when you hear these stories about people trying to be peaceful or whatever, doing their own thing, leave us alone, and the government coming in with the ATF and whoever else and FBI kicking in the doors. It doesn't have to be a huge Waco event, but you're going to hear about these type of events. And it might start with some of these militias that are out there. I don't know. But I started to wonder a little while back when we had a couple of these militias get taken out, the Huturi, or whatever, however you pronounce that, they got hit. I don't know if that was last year or 2009. And then another one got hit right after that. I was like, are we getting into some Waco type events here? What's going on? There was no fighting, but I was, piqued my interest there for a minute. So anyways, that's all I'm going to talk about right now. I got to go. And just something for you to chew on. I covered a few different things in this one video, when in reality I just wanted to talk about the one big WebBot event, meaning the Middle East happening right now, I think was it. And of course, as usual, I get carried away and into other things. But I do have some interesting things to say, so that's why I do it. Anyways, talk to y'all later. Take care.